December 11, 1990, 5:47 a.m. John Gotti wakes up believing he's untouchable. He's beaten the FBI 3 times, 3 acquittals, the Teflon Don. In 3 hours and 13 minutes, his life as a free man will end. Not with bullets, not with blood, but with something far worse, handcuffs, in front of everyone. He's wrong about being untouchable. He's always been wrong. Part 1. The Rise of the Teflon Don. October 27, 1940. The South Bronx. John Joseph Gotti, Jr. is born into poverty. 13 children, a father who gambles away construction wages, a family that moves constantly, always one step ahead of unpaid rent. Young John learns early that legitimate work doesn't pay. By 12, he's running errands for street gangs. By 14, he's stealing cars. By 16, he's dropped out of school permanently. But he's good at violence, not crazy violent like some guys who can't control themselves, calculated violent. He knows exactly when to hurt someone and how much. This gets noticed. In 1957, at 17, he meets Carlo Gambino at a wedding. Just serves him a drink, runs an errand, doesn't speak unless spoken to. But he's seen. In this world, being seen by the right people is everything. In 1962, Gotti marries Victoria DiGiorgio. They'll have 5 children. He'll be a devoted father, attending school plays, coaching Little League, hosting elaborate birthday parties. This is true. It's also true that he's systematically building a reputation as an enforcer who'll cripple you without hesitation if you're late on a payment. Human beings are contradictions, Gotti more than most. The 1970s are his proving ground. Prison at Lewisburg Federal Penitentiary, where he meets Salvatore "Sammy the Bull" Gravano. They're different men. Gotti is flash and fury, while Gravano is quiet calculation. But they recognize something in each other: competence, ambition, hunger. In 1976, Gotti organizes the murder of James McBratney, the man who kidnapped and killed Carlo Gambino's nephew. It's unauthorized. You don't kill without permission. But Gambino is grateful, and gratitude from a man like that is currency. Gotti does the time without complaint and never once considers cooperating with authorities. This is noted. Loyalty is the one absolute in this world. When Gotti gets out, he's made. A formal member of the Gambino family, the largest and most powerful of New York's 5 families. By the 1980s, he's a capo running his own crew out of the Bergen Hunt and Fish Club in Ozone Park, Queens. Then Paul Castellano becomes boss, and everything changes. Castellano runs the family like a business, sophisticated, educated, interested in construction rackets and white-collar schemes. He lives in a mansion on Staten Island. He's losing touch with the soldiers on the ground. And he has a rule: no drug dealing. Anyone caught gets killed. No exceptions. Several of Gotti's crew are dealing. He knows it. They know he knows it. And they all know that if Castellano finds out, when Castellano finds out, they're dead. Gotti faces a choice: wait to be killed or kill first. The decision is made. On December 16, 1985, at 5:25 p.m., Paul Castellano steps out of his Lincoln Continental on East 46th Street in Manhattan. 3 men in identical tan trench coats stand on the sidewalk. Castellano doesn't see them until it's too late. The first shot hits him in the head. Bilotti tries to reach for his gun, but doesn't make it. Brass casings glitter on the wet concrete. Gotti watches from a parked car a block away. Part 2. The Teflon Years. December 1985. 2 weeks after Castellano's murder, on Christmas Eve, John Gotti is officially made the new boss of the Gambino family. He's 45 years old and he's achieved what most wise guys only dream about. He runs New York. But this is where the story should turn cautious. Every boss before him understands the fundamental rule: stay invisible. Don't attract attention. Don't let the public know your name. Gotti does the opposite. He holds court at the Ravenite Social Club on Mulberry Street in Little Italy, sitting at a table in the back like he's hosting a talk show. People line up to pay respects. He lets them, right there, on a street the FBI has under constant surveillance. He wears $2,000 hand-tailored suits, silk ties, diamond pinky rings. His hair is always perfect, combed straight back, not a strand out of place. When he walks down Mulberry Street, people applaud. Tourists take photos. He waves. The tabloids love him. The Dapper Don, the last Don. He gives them something they haven't had since Al Capone, a celebrity gangster. He's better looking than you'd expect, charismatic in a way that doesn't translate to the written word but radiates in person. People want to like him, even people who should know better. His lawyer, Bruce Cutler, plays this perfectly. In court, Cutler doesn't just defend Gotti, he attacks. He calls prosecutors liars. He calls the FBI corrupt. He turns trials into performances, and Gotti sits at the defense table in his perfect suits, occasionally smiling, always confident. In 1987, Gotti goes on trial for racketeering and murder. The prosecution has a strong case. Gotti walks. In 1989, he's tried again for assault and conspiracy. The evidence is damning. He walks again. After each victory, Gotti emerges from the courthouse to crowds of supporters. He signs autographs. He poses for pictures. He's untouchable. But Sammy Gravano watches this and says nothing. Gravano is the underboss now. He helped plan the Castellano hit, and he's been Gotti's partner in building the family. But this attention, this peacocking, this delusion that the law can't touch them, it makes Gravano nervous. He's not wrong to worry. At FBI headquarters in Manhattan, Special Agent Bruce Mao has been chasing Gotti for years. He's patient, methodical, the opposite of Gotti in every way. And Mao has a problem. Every time they get close, Gotti slips away. Leave a like if you want to hear how the FBI finally caught the man who thought he was untouchable. Part 3. The Wire. November 1989. FBI headquarters. The apartment above the Ravenite Social Club becomes available for surveillance. Not available in the sense that it's offered, available in the sense that the FBI convinces an old woman it's in her best interest to cooperate. They install bugs, sophisticated ones, microphones in the walls, in the ceiling, in places you'd never think to look. Gotti, despite his previous close calls with surveillance, believes he's outsmarted the FBI. He conducts business in the apartment, believing it's safe. He holds meetings. He discusses murders. He admits to crimes on tape in his own voice with no code words or ambiguity. And he does it over and over again. For months, the FBI records everything. Gotti discussing murder contracts, Gotti dividing up territories, Gotti ordering hits, Gotti complaining about members of his crew with the petty irritation of a middle manager discussing incompetent employees. On December 12, 1989, he discusses the murder of Paul Castellano openly, confirming what everyone suspected. He sounds proud. He should sound terrified. Sammy Gravano is on many of these tapes too. He's careful with his words, more careful than Gotti, but his presence is incriminating enough. By late 1990, the FBI has everything they need. Not circumstantial evidence, not unreliable witness testimony. Gotti's own voice discussing his own crimes recorded in crystal clarity. You can hear the ice clinking in his espresso. Bruce Mao listens to the tapes and thinks, finally. They plan the arrest for December 11, 1990. Early morning, before Gotti can suspect anything. They want him in cuffs before his lawyers can mobilize, before his crew can destroy evidence, before he can disappear into the bureaucratic machinery that's protected him before. Part 4. The Fall. December 11, 1990, 8:02 a.m., Howard Beach, Queens. Gotti's doorbell rings. He answers it in his charcoal gray suit, coffee cup still in hand. There are FBI agents on his lawn, a lot of them. Cameras, too. The Bureau has tipped off the media. They want the world to see this. Agent Mao shows Gotti the warrant. Gotti's face doesn't change. He's been arrested before. He's beaten them before. He sets down his coffee cup carefully, making sure it doesn't leave a ring on the table. Victoria appears at the top of the stairs in a bathrobe, and Gotti looks up at her. "Call Bruce," he says, meaning his lawyer. His voice is calm. They cuff him in his own doorway. The cameras catch everything. At 11:30 a.m., he's arraigned. The charges are extensive: racketeering, murder, conspiracy, obstruction of justice, jury tampering. The prosecution has a 50-page indictment. They have tapes, hours of them. Bail is denied. For the first time in his life, John Gotti will not be going home. Something is different this time. He can feel it. The agents aren't joking. They're serious, confident. They know something he doesn't, or rather, they know something he's only beginning to understand. This time, he's finished. Here's what Gotti doesn't know. Sammy Gravano is making calculations. Gravano is 46 years old. He's looking at life in prison, and he's listening to the tapes the FBI has played for his lawyer, tapes where Gotti blames him for problems, criticizes him behind his back, positions him to take falls. This is a violation, not of law, but of something more fundamental, the partnership they built. Gravano has been loyal. He's killed for Gotti, 19 murders he'll later admit. And on these tapes, Gotti is undermining him. In October 1991, Gravano's lawyer tells him there's an offer: cooperation in exchange for a reduced sentence. Gravano doesn't decide immediately. For weeks, he thinks about it. Cooperating with the government violates everything he's believed in since he was a teenager. The code is absolute. You don't rat. Ever. But Gotti violated the code first, Gravano tells himself. Gotti turned him into a target. Gotti's ego, his stupidity, his refusal to stay quiet, all of it has put Gravano in this cell. On November 8, 1991, Sammy the Bull Gravano agrees to cooperate. When Gotti learns about this, they say, though this might be legend, that he puts his fist through a wall. The trial begins on January 21, 1992, in federal court in Brooklyn. Judge I. Leo Glasser presiding. The courtroom is packed. Outside, Gotti's supporters hold signs, "Free John Gotti." They believe he'll walk again. He won't. The prosecution plays the tapes. Gotti's voice fills the courtroom, discussing murders casually, complaining about the difficulty of running a criminal empire, incriminating himself with every sentence. Then Gravano takes the stand. He's calm. He's detailed. He describes 19 murders matter-of-factly. He looks directly at Gotti while he speaks. Gotti stares back, but he says nothing. On April 2, 1992, after 13 hours of deliberation, the jury returns with verdicts on all counts. Guilty, 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 guilty. 14 times they say it. Guilty of racketeering, guilty of murder, guilty of conspiracy, guilty of everything. Gotti's face remains expressionless, but his hands grip the edge of the defense table hard enough that his knuckles turn white. Judge Glasser looks down from the bench. "The sentence of this court is that you be imprisoned for life without possibility of parole." Life. Without parole. At age 51, Gotti will die in prison. Share this story if you think pride and arrogance are the real destroyers of men like Gotti. Part 5. The Slow End. 1992 to 2002, United States Penitentiary, Marion, Illinois. Prison destroys Gotti slowly. He's sent to the Supermax facility where the most dangerous federal prisoners are housed. He's in solitary confinement 23 hours a day, no contact with other prisoners, no opportunity to run anything. The man who wore $2,000 suits now wears prison khakis. The man who held court on Mulberry Street now sits alone in a concrete cell. The man who smiled at cameras now has no cameras, no audience, no one to perform for. His health deteriorates. In 1998, he's diagnosed with throat cancer, probably from decades of smoking. He undergoes surgery, radiation, chemotherapy. Nothing works. His family visits occasionally. His wife, Victoria, remains loyal, though the marriage has been tested by revelations during the trial about his mistresses. His children visit less frequently. They have their own lives now, lives complicated by carrying the name Gotti. In March 2002, he's transferred to the U.S. Medical Center for Federal Prisoners in Springfield, Missouri. His cancer has metastasized. He's dying, and the Bureau of Prisons wants him to die in their care, not at home. They deny every request for compassionate release. On June 10, 2002, at 12:45 p.m., John Gotti dies. He's 61 years old. He's been in prison for 11 years. The funeral is at a church in Queens. Hundreds attend. The press covers it extensively. Some of the old supporters are there, crying, calling him a hero. The FBI photographs everyone who comes, building files even now. He's buried at St. John's Cemetery in Middle Village, Queens. The headstone is large, expensive, exactly the kind of ostentatious display he would have wanted. In death, as in life, John Gotti performs. Part 6. What the Legend Misses. The real story behind the myth. Sammy Gravano, who cooperates and testifies against Gotti, serves 5 years for 19 admitted murders. 5 years. He enters witness protection with a new identity and a deal so lenient it makes prosecutors uncomfortable. But witness protection doesn't take. In 2000, Gravano is arrested again for running an ecstasy distribution ring in Arizona. He serves additional time, gets released in 2017, and now lives somewhere in the Southwest, occasionally giving interviews where he expresses no regret for his crimes. Gotti's children try various paths. His son, John Gotti Jr., follows his father into the Gambino family, becomes acting boss, gets indicted 4 times, beats 3 cases. He eventually walks away from organized crime, or so he claims. He writes books now. He gives interviews. The Gotti name still sells. The Gambino family survives Gotti's fall. It's smaller now, more careful, operating in the shadows the way it should have all along. The FBI estimates it still generates tens of millions annually through construction rackets, loan sharking, and gambling. They learned from Gotti's mistake: stay invisible. The Ravenite Social Club is gone, closed, then sold, then renovated into something legitimate. Tourists still visit the block, taking photos of where it used to be, romanticizing a violence they never experienced. The FBI agents who brought Gotti down receive commendations and promotions. Bruce Mao, in later interviews, expresses something unexpected. Not satisfaction exactly, but a recognition that their victory didn't end organized crime. It just made it smarter. John Gotti believed he was untouchable because he'd beaten the system 3 times. He confused luck with invincibility, temporary success with permanent immunity. He thought the rules didn't apply to him. They did. Every wise guy before him understood something fundamental. The moment you become visible, the moment you become a target the government can't ignore, you're finished. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Carlo Gambino, who ran the family before Castellano, died peacefully at home in 1976, a wealthy man who'd never spent significant time in prison. He achieved this by being boring. No flashy suits, no press conferences, no crowds on the street. Gotti did the opposite, and it killed him. Not quickly, not dramatically, but sitting in that cell in Marion, Illinois, alone for 23 hours a day while cancer ate through his throat. That was death. Just slower than a bullet. The Dapper Don, the Teflon Don, the Last Don, all those names, all that press, all that attention. And for what? A cell, a slow death, a grave that gets vandalized occasionally by people who either idolize him or hate him, but either way don't really know him. That's the story the legend misses. John Gotti defied the FBI 3 times. On the 4th, they buried him alive and waited for the cancer to finish the job. He died alone, unable to speak because of the tumor, in a federal medical facility 1,000 miles from home. The man who couldn't stop talking, silenced. There's poetry in that, if you're inclined to find it, but mostly there's just waste. A life spent building an empire that didn't belong to him, in a world that was always going to destroy him. The only thing John Gotti proved is that you can't beat the system by mocking it. Drop a like if you think Gotti's story is a warning, not a legend. Subscribe for more untold stories of crime, ambition, and the price of arrogance. Want to dive deeper into the lives of mobsters who thought they were untouchable? Read the full, uncensored accounts in our exclusive true crime collection, available now on Amazon. Click the link in the description to discover the stories behind the legends.